Welcome, everyone, to the Soulful Ascension podcast episode. And I am so excited to introduce you to a very special guest I have today. His name is Tony Gyenis. And Tony is all the way from Canada, and I'm currently in Australia. He's a spiritual guide, channel, founder of the Love Higher Self. And this month of February is all about love yourself. And that's the theme of my workshop this month, though Tony's work is very heart-centered and he's devoted to awakening consciousness and embodiment and living in alignment with your higher self to help humanity. And through his work, Tony supports people to reconnect with their love, plus release all the fear-based patterns, remember their true essence. His teachings are grounded, intuitive, and guided by spirit, and offering practical pathways for inner healing, expansion, and conscious living during this time of collective awakening. So, welcome, Tony. This is the first podcast guest. You are the first for 2026. So,
Oh, look at
welcome,
that.
and thank you for
That's great.
being here. So, for those that never met you before, would you like to describe your work and the path that led you to what brought you here today?
Well, thank you very much, Linda, for the introduction. Oh, yeah, it's been quite a journey. I guess we all have journeys that bring us to, we never know where things are going until we follow whatever our calling is. Many years ago, I had a moving company. And from there, it just developed into one thing led to another. And now I am working with frequencies. I use tuning forks and singing bowls. I use crystal bowls and gongs and so on. But my main focus is on crystal and on tuning forks. I am a master teacher. I teach actually other practitioners how to incorporate tuning forks in their practice. So whether you're a massage therapist or a chiropractor or someone that does Reiki, there's so many different ways that you can end something with frequency. And that's basically what we are. We are light and frequency. If you look at any of our cells under a microscope, it's all moving. It's all vibrating. We're vibrating every minute. There's a frequency that we are all on. And one of the things I love about my work is that when people come in for what we call a tuning session, it's much like a massage, but there's no physical touch. It's mostly working around the auric field of people on a massage table. And it is wonderful in the sense that there's no talking needed because the frequency has so much language within the frequency and the sound that people start remembering who they are and they are getting more things. People that have traumas, that's one of the reasons why when you go to somebody to talk about your trauma, you could be doing that for 20 years and not much progress. But they'll come in for a couple of tuning sessions and they've done more. Not I'm just setting up the environment for them to be in that place, and it's a safe environment. This way, they'll find their own whatever deviation that they're in, and then they realize, hey, I'm going in the wrong direction. It's all about memory. It's all about remembering who you are. It's not about really discovering anything or something new that's coming in. It's always been there since birth, and now we're just seeing it. And so it's when you look at yourself in a different perspective, this is where it triggers that self-love. It triggers that self-appreciation, self-guidance, and many other things that have self in the beginning as a prefix. Self-image is all about that. And this has really been intriguing for me. So it was quite a long journey for me. I went through a feng shui class. I'm a master in feng shui as well, so I can go into people's homes and feel different things that the house is telling me. So when people are coming in for a tuning session, I connect to their body, and their body is telling me what frequencies it needs. So I know it's just like food. It's just like
Yes.
energetic food. It's like something that the sounds the body is not getting in whatever area that they are in. If they're down, if they're traumatized, if they're feeling that they're not enough, that's a frequency. And special frequencies that we project, the body says, "Okay, I need this, and I need that," and there's a special tuning technique that we use for many things. Like there's a separate one for if a person is coming in and they are all over the place in the sense that there's things happening in their life. They might be going through a divorce. They might be going through, they have to move, and there's more kids involved, and like in other words, they're so overwhelmed that their whole life is now disarrayed. They just don't know where to start. And there's a frequency of being back in order, being back online. And so we call that the Fibonacci series. So there's a special way to use sounds from Fibonacci to bring order to someone's energy. And it just makes them so that they feel like they have control. But nothing has changed in their physical life, but their perspective has changed. They now feel that they have more control because their aura is in a better place.
Exactly. It's, as I say, it's coming back into alignment with
It
your
is.
true self, your true authentic self, because as you said, it's all coming back home. And that's what all different
Yeah.
healing modalities are. It's about coming back home to your soul, of remembering who you are as a soul and your soul's mission and your soul's purpose. And I love that, because we are all energy. and
You
and
did.
so we vibrate at different frequencies, so the tuning forks just helps us to realign and clear the clutter, so it's like a sanctuary
Absolutely.
of our energy field. And so, and when it comes to, because you mentioned trauma, and so because you also do readings as well,
Yes.
so do you
Yes.
combine the tuning forks with a reading, or is that a
Absolutely.
separate session?
No,
Okay.
well, it can be separate if somebody doesn't want to do the personal alignment and they just want a reading. We could do that too, because depending on the truth that they're looking for, that will also alter someone's energy. If you thought you were, I had one a number of years ago that comes to mind where a lady's husband had passed away, and the husband had been running this business for over 25 years. And she was mainly doing the books, and she was mainly helping out as support. And he ran the whole thing, and it was a very successful business, but extremely time consuming. So when he passed away, she thought she had to sort of take the reins and keep the business going to give respect to her husband. So she kept running it for a couple of years, and she got to the point where she just came in for a reading and just wanted to find out, what do I do, because I don't know if I can take much more. I don't know how my husband was able to do this, but what is he saying? And the first thing was, this was my business. It had nothing to do with you. So
Yeah.
if you want, you could sell it. And then she started crying. Really? Because I didn't want to disrespect, and once you know the truth, it was
Mm.
like, she came in and she left 50 pounds lighter because now
Yes.
she was able to just release the business. And she says, I live in a big house. And he said during the reading, he says, no, that's for like a whole people. It's all by yourself, and there's more to clean. Sell it. Go into a condo. That's what I want to do, she says. And so all the things that she wanted was just there, and all she had to do was ask, and she got the
Yes.
truth. didn't disappoint her husband. What she thought he would be disappointed if she didn't just keep this 25-year-old business going. And
Yeah.
he said, no, it was never meant for you. It was something that I cooked up, but it gave what it had to, and so she
Yes.
had a tuning after that, because when you have that much of a shift in your energy, sometimes you just need to get it all cleared up. And we did do a quick tuning after, but it was,
Yeah.
yeah, we do just readings too. Yes.
Well, it was like a recalibration. And sometimes
Yes.
when people go for a reading, it's like intuitively we already know these things, but hearing it from someone else who's tuning in, it's a confirmation. And
It
I
is.
use a lot of cards, and it's like, okay, my senses say this, let me just pull a card, and usually that's the confirmation, that's the answer. And right now, because the energy and the veil on the planet is so much lighter, all people's clairs are opened up, and intuitive abilities and gifts have opened up. Have you noticed that people are waking up
Absolutely.
rapidly? So, but right now, since it's February and this is a big month, like this
It
is a
is.
massive month of awakening for humanity. We've got the solar eclipse, we've got the fire horse, the new moon, all on the 17th of February. And
That
so,
was done by design. Yeah.
yes, it's
Yeah.
and we're in a 1 year. So it is a really massive awakenings and big changes. Do you have a message, especially for, because this is what I'm getting is this is about really dropping into your heart and listening to your heart and trusting your heart. What are you seeing out there in the world right now? And what are some tools or tips that you can actually give people to help, so in maybe they don't want a one-on-one session, but these are tools that, because I repeat a lot of tools in my lives, but what are you suggesting for people to connect with their higher self and start trusting their inner
Well,
guidance?
this is it. We've always been able to read, or we've always been able to feel what we should be doing. The next step is to trust it.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
where a lot of people are hesitating. But it's not always their fault, or it's not always their doing, because since birth, all of us have been designed and programmed to listen to someone else. At first, it's our
yeah.
parents, and then it's other people that say, "Oh, that can't be done," and then we just sort of say, "Oh, that can't be done." So we get programmed those limitations as we go. So when we, especially when we start reading other people's energy and we start reading our own, there's always this sense of, am I doing it right? Or am I doing something wrong if something is happening? And yeah, this is very common, Linda. It's very much so, because people always have this. But if you look at how the spiritual industry is basically tapped in, when you look at the matrix itself, this is the society that we are born into, and it
Mm,
tells you what to do. It doesn't want connected people as a rule. It doesn't want critical thinkers. It wants people to obey. You want
yes,
people to follow what you're told and not ask any questions. All right.
yes,
As soon as you ask any questions, there's already a resistance that, why are you even asking that? Well, I can ask a question, but they don't want you to. It's so that's what really is happening. But what's happening also is that we've been trained to always look at something where you're almost there. We call it the energy of almost there. Oh, you almost got an A in this test. You got to try harder. You almost made it to being wealthy. We almost got it there. You were almost healed. You were almost got the courses you need. So in other words, this is where people feel that they're not enough, because
Yes.
enough of those suggestions and those things in tests, they say, well, we are averaged, and based on the average, you got a C minus. It was a one person in my class years ago. He got his paper back and it was an F plus. And he said, "What does that mean? Am I just a smart failure?" You know? And so when this kind of narrative is out there, we feel that no matter what we do, it's sometimes a little bit short of where we need to be. And they
Yeah.
do that on purpose. They do it on purpose, that you're almost there. And so you need a little bit more of something. You need a little bit more money. You need a little bit more charisma. You could use a course on etiquette, or you could use a course on expanding your horizons or mindset or something. So there's always this, oh, I should be getting something else. Sometimes people will start taking spiritual classes, and they have so many under their belt. So many. I know a person that has been trying to train for the last 15 years, but hasn't trained other people at all, because there's this sense of doubt that maybe I'm an imposter. Maybe I don't really have what it takes. And they feel that I do, but what if I'm wrong? And so they take another class. But
Yes.
this is the part of the matrix that really gets involved with the spiritual aspect of where our society is. When the matrix says you're not enough, if you look at many of the spiritual classes, just the basics are online. It's like, oh, if you have trauma, you need to take another class, or you need to take another, got to go into the wilderness one more time and yell at the lake or at the top of the mountain, or do whatever you need to take care of this trauma. And if it's still there, oh, there's almost there. So in other words, the spiritual industry is now wrapped up with a matrix within a matrix. It's like you're in this bubble, and it's like it's never enough. You think that you can teach other people because you've got a lot of, let's say, courses. They'll take your courses and other people's courses, and they're already well established, and they are armed with many things that they could pass on to other people, and they should. But they still feel they need one more because it might not be enough. So really the answer here isn't, do I need to take anything else? One really great tip for people that are on a spiritual path is realize that your trauma was exactly what needed to happen to you
Yes.
to wake you up so that you could find a way to let it go. But you're not letting go of the trauma. You're letting go of the matrix within the matrix. In other words, this is enough. I can just step out. I don't have to let go of the trauma. I need to let go of what's around the trauma, saying that, okay, it's not quite enough. There's still some trauma left inside of you. And when you could
Yeah.
see that what I'm letting go is not what happened to me, and blaming somebody who's probably already has transitioned into the light anyway, what you're doing there is you're finding out that this is me. This had to happen because I was not put on this earth to have a comfortable life. Nobody has come onto this earth because it was a spa. Nobody has come onto this earth because Spirit told them, oh, this is a really good planet. It has a beautiful lakes and rivers, and there's lots of things to do. And Spirit tried to sell us on the idea that this was going to be a nice free ride. We were told the exact opposite. We were told that this is the Harvard of the spiritual part of this cosmos, and there's a lot of dogma, there's a lot of contrast here, and you're here to bring heaven to earth. The first cry that you had when it came out of you was this cry that I'm here, and I am here to bring light. And that's our first mission. But the moment things happen to you, they know that it is easy to be happy when everything around you is happy. If you go to a place and everybody says, oh, Linda, you are always so good, and there's always praise, and there's always people that respect you, it's very easy to be happy in those instances. But what happens when nobody cares about you? when people think that you're just like a pair of slippers they could just throw in the corner and they don't worry about it, and you're pretty much on your own, and they'll beat you down whenever they can. And then what can you do? If you can still be loving and caring and be still helping other people, then that means that you filtered all of the things that were given to you, and that's power. Power isn't just to feel love when you have love around you. Power is when nothing is around you and you can still exude love without any explanation.
Wow, you've just summed that up so beautifully, and we are so aligned because back in 1990, when I first met my spiritual teacher, this is exactly what he helped me to understand and to change my perspective on why I chose my family in this life that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't pretty, and but they
Mm-hmm.
were all playing roles for my soul's learning and growth, and also the mind body spirit, because at the time I had cancer which I created. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, right, oh, I created this because I was pushing down all this hurt and sadness and the rejection, abandonment, and why don't my family like me or love me or support me and blah, blah, blah. And
Right.
so when you let all that go, it's like you see things from a different perspective. And like you said, things happen for us, not to us. No one's a victim on this earth. And
Right.
we are all here to learn and grow and go, wow, my family are amazing teachers. And
That's
look
right.
what I've
That's right.
created from that. That's why I created the Benn method, balance, energy, nurture, and nourish. It's like nurture and nourish you. Don't look for the outside world to do that for you or give your power away to other people. So as a soul, we're already powerful. But like you said, this earth, it's like there's a lot of programming, a lot of manipulation, a lot of control, and that's what all the dogma of society and all these systems that are currently breaking down. Do you agree? They're all collapsing
Absolutely. It is
because
collapsing because the
it's a
truth is
dual
power, more
reality.
power.
Yes, it's like we knew that this earth was light and dark, and it's like the light's now shining more on the darkness. And so this is where people are seeing, you know, how long's this been going on? Oh, hundreds, thousands of years. And they're seeing the truth, and they're now trusting themselves instead of the manipulation of what the media is saying or the news or a lot of the other uh, maybe leaders out there. So everything's happening perfectly the way that it's meant to, and the universe always has our back. But we came here, like you said, it's an earth school for us to learn.
It's
To
a tough
come
university. It's considered one of the top learning planets in the cosmos, and people come from far and wide because there's so much learning here. There's such a contrast, and in their planet, everything's sort of very calm, or it could be in other ways, but the Earth is considered very much a tough university.
I'm going to ask a question, and I know this is the opposite to love and light, though, because it's happens a lot here on our Earth school, and that's suicide.
Hmm.
And so, from my understanding, when somebody takes their life, I mean,
Yes,
to be here on the Earth school and there are a lot of spirits all waiting. They want a body to come here.
absolutely. Yep.
And if you have been honored this opportunity to be here on this earth at this time, that's a huge, kudos to you. So if you don't respect that, I was told that spirits like you get a big slap on the wrist on the other side. Can you explain more about that? Because unfortunately, the mental health and people taking their lives because it just gets too much for them.
It's get too
Um,
much. Yes, they can't take it.
or they, numb out with drugs or alcohol or other substances. And there's a
Yes.
lot of people that just are not taking responsibility for their feelings, what they're feeling, for their mental health, and going down some very dark roads. So can you explain what happens as a soul for someone who has taken their life from this playground?
Okay, yes, yeah, we could go in that direction. One of the things we have to realize is that spirit, there is no penalty on the other side. There is no slap on the wrist, or there isn't any sort of a negative reaction. Look at it as if you wanted to go to the supermarket and you write down 8 things that you want to pick up, and you get there and you pick up 2, maybe 3, and then you go home. What happens? You're still missing 5. So in a sense, that spirit will say, okay, you got to go back for the other 5. So in other words, the lessons aren't learned. But here's the thing about it. Before we come in as physical beings, in non-physical, we have a number of things that we've promised that we're going to do in this life. And the thing is, the very thing that we choose, like lack of self-love, like or I don't think I'm enough, or I don't think I'm going to make it on this earth. The opposite is true when we are in non-physical, because we are masters at that in that area. That's why we choose this, because we come in and we don't remember what our gifts are. We choose the exact gift that the opposite is needing. So in other words, if a person doesn't feel like they are anything, they feel like it is overwhelming for them, and that they don't feel that their life is any impact on this earth, so then they decide that they're going to leave and intervene, basically nature, and leave. What ends up happening is that they didn't go far enough into who they were so they could discover that, hey, there's a nugget here. So the trauma has the antidote inside of it. So whatever trauma that is promised to us that we're going to have, inside the trauma is the antidote. I mean, look at what happens when a snake bites you. If a snake bites you, you can't just go to the hospital and get medicine. They actually need the snake so they could extract the snake and build an anti-venom based on the snake's venom to bring you back. And it's a trauma is the same. We want to keep away from trauma. We don't want to talk about it, and that's the problem, because the antidote is inside the center of it. And that's where we find out who we are, and we can find out that we were masters at looking at ourselves in a very high regard. Now, just to answer your question, when somebody does take their life, and they have that choice, it also delays their return very substantially. In other words, many of us, when we pass and we go to the light, we have the choice, because we do have, Spirit tells me all the time that we have 3 questions that were asked when we go back to the light. And our Creator says, did you live enough? And did you love enough? Do you want to go back? However, the people that take their life, it's that gift of creation, and they take it. They don't get the option of coming back right away, because they need some self-evaluation in non-physical, because their soul wasn't quite ready for it. So it does relay or delay their return. They don't get punished in that way. It's just that when something is given to you like this amazing gift of life, When you throw it back at them, it's just like when I visit your home and you prepare an incredible meal, and as soon as you serve it, I says, well, no, I don't like chicken or I don't like steak. So take it back. In other words, I have sort of crossed the line
Yes,
of being a person of respect in someone's home. Breaking bread is one of the most honorable thing you can do in someone's home. And if you break that, it doesn't mean that I might get thrown out, but it does mean that chances are I won't be invited back anytime soon,
yes,
kind of thing.
yes.
So life is like that, is that there isn't a penalty, but it certainly does delay their return, because there are billions of souls that would love to come in. They would literally love to come in. And they can't come in as humans, because not that there's a quota, but it's just that there's certain amount of souls that this earth can do right now. And right now it's around 8-9 billion in that area. And a lot of other planets are more than that, and some are less. But a lot of them are more, and they're in a much better area. So they've used the numbers as, okay, this is about what they need. We have a lot of people that have a front row seat right now in creation to see how this earth will take total darkness and turn it into light. And that's creation. And not only did you leave before the main event, you missed being in 2026 is where it's going to start. 2026, this transition where the earth is going to be really moving forward, and you would have been taking part in all of that, and it would have been a very, very incredible time for that soul that left. But it is what it is, and some people, I understand that it does get overwhelming, but for whatever reason, they're listening to the wrong voices. They were always getting something maybe of higher vibration, but kept discounting it, because we do have the gift of choice. No matter how much you want to give someone a better life, you can't force a good life on anybody. If they refuse, that's their choice.
Mm.
So suicide is a very big topic in spirit world again, and they will do anything to delay it. They'll put you to sleep, especially if you want to, send your car or over a ravine or something. They'll make sure that the car is destroyed, but you walk away. Archangel Michael and many other angels that are connected to that type of thing. If you say to them before you leave in non-physical that if I get to a point, please make it so that I don't pass on or I don't hurt this what they call earth suits. Okay, we have these earth suits that our soul is wrapped around in or within. And that because I really want to learn what I need to learn. So some people will pass out. Some people will maybe take too much drugs and they'll pass out, and they'll just like overdose, but they won't die. But however, if they've tried it 17 times, then after that they realize, okay, it's perhaps not the right time, and then they'll let one of them go, and then they will sort of let that person come back to the light, and they'll have to basically do a little bit more work in non-physical on their own planet, wherever it is, before they'll come, because Earth is a tough place to be. And
Yes,
but
yes,
there's always love in everything, and we need to sort of look at that in it. So those are one of the tools. Always look at everything that has a gift. If you can look at somebody that you don't like, maybe one of your enemies, realize this is a person that has fragmented light. It's just that the reason that they are mean to other people is because they're not connected to source energy. And maybe you're there to be able to show them what an angel looks like without the wings.
yeah.
And so it's
Archangel.
always a perspective of how you are in.
So, what's your perspective on? We hear a lot about, you've got a demon attached to you or a low vibration entity, and this is what's causing you to do this behavior or think these ways. What's your perspective on that?
We have a choice in anything we do. If we believe, and the reality is, whatever you believe in the most is where you are. If you believe that there is spirits of light and there's light around you, there is no demon problem. It's only when you believe these, because keep in mind, demons are they're connected to lack of light. There is no source of darkness. There is no source of negativity. It's basically on a perspective. If you were to have a light switch and it's a dimmer switch, those ones on the wall where if you turn it right up, it goes full blast, light, lots of light. When you turn it down the other way, it gets less and less light. And with the less and less light, now the darkness can come in. But the reason it's in is not because it's a source of darkness, is because there's so little light, is that's the only limitation that the darkness has. So when we look at demons, it means someone is very much connected to the dark and thinks in some way or perspective that they are part of this source. It's a construct. It isn't reality because people say that there are voodoos and there are other demons involved. There's vampires. I just don't believe in those things because I don't believe in them. And in an energetic way, I know what they are. It's a lack of light, but I am full of light, so
Yeah.
they have no impact on me. In other words, that is the reality, is when you realize what it is, there's only one source, and that's light. Light is a source. Anything else is a lack of light. There's no such thing as darkness. There's no such thing as demons until you start fearing them. Fear is a big catalyst, and the entire work that they do is they work a lot on convincing you that you are nothing, that you are lacking everything, that you are listening to the fact that they have more power and you believe it. As soon as you believe in something, then your investment goes there, and then this is where people will feel that they have demons within them, and so on. But it
So,
is a personal choice.
if they're thinking fearful thoughts, is that
Yes,
attracting in
yes,
low
yes.
entities, and they just keep feeding that and
That's right.
lowering their energy vibration, and then it's
That's right.
just downhill from there, and then that's where the trauma, and they get in their head, oh my God, this is doom and gloom.
That's right.
Is it?
That's right. That's exactly what it is. They feed on fear.
Yeah.
And just like any animal, as soon as any animal realizes that you're fearful, it senses it, and then it
Yes.
capital, and that's when it attacks. But how do you explain some animal like the badger, which is 1/10 the size of an elephant, and it isn't afraid of anything? There is nothing that that little animal is afraid of. And so if any larger animal wants to attack it, it doesn't move. And so that scares the other one because this should be fearful and it's not. So they don't understand why the fear isn't in their blood because they're not they are just programmed to be able to they know they are in charge, and
Yeah.
the other animals they just concede because their position of believing in themselves is so strong that others can't bring it down because they need the fear for them to exist. And that it's much like that with many, whether it's yeah, regardless what people will say that I have a haunted house, or I need more crystals, I need more protection, I need more of something to keep these negative entities and demons away. Well, that's exactly why they're there. You know,
Yeah.
if you
'Cause
look
that's what
at
you're focused on.
that
You're
that's it.
focused
That's why
on
they're
them.
there because you are afraid of them so much. But in my case, I could walk into a haunted house, and I have. In feng shui, sometimes people will buy a home, and the grandmother that passed away in bedroom number 3 is still there energetically, making noise, and and
Yeah.
there's nobody in the house, but they still hear footsteps on the upper floor, and they're really
Yeah.
scared, and that's why that it's doing that, because they get a rise out of it. It's almost like a fun thing when other
Yeah.
people are afraid of them. But then
Yeah.
I come in, then all of a sudden the footsteps stop, and I said, "Okay, let's have our tea right now." So I'll stake in a room, and I'll have a conversation with them.
Yes.
And in the beginning, all of them, many of them, are angry energies. And I said, "Why are you angry?" And I just say it that way because I know I have light surrounding me. I've got all kinds of angels, so it's a non-issue. But they realize that this guy isn't fearful like every other person. They're running, but he just has the audacity to sit and want to have a coffee or a tea or something. And I said,
Yeah.
"What's going on?" And once they get through the fact that I'm not afraid, my thing is, "What's going on? Why are you having such a time? What can I do for you?"
Yeah.
And most times they say, "Well, nobody's listening to me." Well, what do you want these people to do? Well, I was always looking at trying to help people, but they're not listening. Even in my life when I was here and I was in physical, and nobody listened to me, and I'm just getting tired of that. Okay, well, they would like me to escort you out, but I could convince them to get you to stay if you want to help them. What ways can you help them? Oh, okay, well, right, because that was never asked. Because when you turn the
Right.
whole thing around, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Nobody can get angry when you say to them, "How can I help you?" That you can't get angry because you want to give something and they don't know. They have no clue. And then when I look at it, I said, "Well, when did your husband leave before you passed?" And they realized that, well, my husband left several years before. Well, are you not missing them? Like, you not missing? Would you like to get reacquainted with your husband? Because really, as long as you're in this house by yourself, you realize you're a prisoner. And they never realized it until just that moment, because you're not leaving, meaning you're a prisoner now. Well, wait, I don't want you to here being a prisoner. I want you to be here because maybe you might be able to give them something. But maybe you have the choice to move on. How can I help you with that? And so, in other words, once you start talking to an energy, the fear, the demon, all of a sudden drops its guard and realizes that you are a source of light and they are not. And do you want to go back to where you came from? They said, "Absolutely not. You would not believe who sent me." Like, it could be a much worse place to go back to its origin. I says, "Okay, well, let's set you free. Where would you like to go? Would you like to be reacquainted with your husband in that energetic form?" And the next thing you know, they decide that they're going to leave. I says, "Okay, that's your choice. If you kick them out, they will come back with friends, because that's not the way energy works. It's best to just talk to them until they decide what they want to do, and then it's done." So that took me about an hour conversation to be in that room where
Right.
some people that are very sensitive wouldn't be able to get in. I had a very sensitive person when I was working with at one point. When we walked into the house, she ran out and threw up in the front lawn because it was so dense and such a demonized place that
Wow.
I didn't feel it.
Heavy.
I didn't feel it.
Heavy.
My energy's a little different. I have this armor around me of light. I can't explain it, but it's very different. And so I'll walk upstairs and I'll just sit down and I just say, "Let's have a chat." And
Yes.
once we can get to a certain point, then the other person can come in. But if you have fear, that's not the answer. The answer is, what's going on with that person? So this is the problem with many people when they get trauma, because they start to identify, "I have this trauma." I says, "No, you
Yes.
don't. You are
Yes.
a person of light, and
attached.
trauma is around you. One of the things I love about the Irish, the way they speak, I love, and I know Australians say this as well, but they say that sadness is upon me. They will say it that way. Not saying that I'm sad or that I am really depressed. They say depression is upon me. Sadness is upon me. And that is more the truth. They are a person of light, of love, and something
Yeah,
is sticking to them. It's a separate entity. It's not me that's depressed or traumatized. It's this energy, and it's so close to me, I feel the trauma, and I do, but it's not mine.
yeah,
It's
that's
not
right.
mine. So as soon as we
Yeah,
take possession of it and we identify with it, then it's you. You're stuck with it. And now you're
mm,
going to go through years and years of trying to anti-traumatize yourself, and it doesn't work. It's part of that same matrix where you think that one more course, one more session with somebody, one more reading will do it,
mm,
and it's
mm,
just oh, you almost made it. Oh no, not quite. But if you just say it's not me, I'm going to see what I can do with the trauma that is attached to me to see if I can send it back, and I'm just going to exit. In other words, when we don't engage, the trauma isn't there. Now, I'll still remember the trauma or whatever happened, but it no longer will the energy give me that emotional hit that will be debilitating. With some people, when you can only imagine some people's were beaten, they were traumatized, they were raped. I mean, there's so many things that happened when we were children, and
mm,
it's that energy that is attached to the child at a very young age. So when we can separate the identity, we're halfway there,
yes.
and
And
that's the thing about trauma. Yeah,
detach from the story.
detached from the
And
story. Yeah.
yeah, because it's not you and it
No,
happened for you. What was the learning? And also as a soul, we had agreements and contracts with other people that they would actually do these things
that's right.
for us in order to
Yes,
learn and grow. But
absolutely.
as two souls making these negotiations in spirit, they love you so much that this is the agreement for you to learn something. So it's that's also why people go through these experiences in order to,
Absolutely.
it's like,
Yes.
what did I learn from that experience? But don't attach to the story.
Don't
I know
attach. Exactly.
yeah, and this goes for illness and disease and even pain in their body, because this is the work I've been doing, helping people for many years, but it's more empowering them to take back control of their own health, their own well-being, and take their
Yes.
power back, because no one's broken, no one needs fixing, and all the healing work, it's more to help them to remember who they are, come home to ourselves, and that's where your work and connecting to their higher self, it's like, ah, yes,
That's right. Mhm.
none of that stuff in the external world matters, and you see things from a different perspective, and then your life changes from there. Um,
Yeah,
so
you actually change it. That yeah, yeah.
yeah, Tony, do you have a like, would you like to channel a message for everyone listening, especially this month of February, because it's such a massive month and the energies, everyone is feeling the energies. And this month of February, it's all about love and light. Come home to yourself, connect with your heart, listen to your heart. That's where the truth is. And so, do you have a message that you'd like to
Yes,
share?
yes. As you were talking, your spirit does have a message for many people at this time, at the beginning of February 2026, and of course, it goes a little bit in line with the energy of the fire horse, because we've had so many years where we've had the chance to be able to work on our whatever it is, whether it's an incident that happened, and some people that something that happened in a playground 50 years ago, people are still holding on to it, and they're always asking, why would something like that happen to me? And this is why there's no answer to that. There's no answer at all to the why. But the message is basically simple, is that you come in and we are so powerful that sometimes we don't see how powerful we really are. When we look at it as we have to be small, stay small, we have limits, and this was all designed in that way because when somebody says you have limits, what do you feel? Do you feel that you have a limit? And if you do, then you're listening to whatever it is that you're listening to. But the whole idea here is we are all getting messages. Like all of us are mediums. All of us are psychics. All of us are feeling something because what the reality is that our soul is the one that has the human body. The body doesn't have a soul. When we come in, we have this human body, but it is a very small percentage of what the soul is all about. It's like taking your entire body that, let's say, represents your higher self, your trueness. And if you take your little finger, the fingernail would represent your human body. So what ends up happening is, as we start doing the work, as we start realizing, I do love myself, I really do. And as we start saying whatever it is that we are believing and looking at the light in various different ways, realizing that we're not seeing light, we're seeing our reflection. And when we start looking at things like that, we expand our human consciousness, which means we see more of our higher self, which means a lot of people get more intuitive. A lot of people get more, there's just so much that they start looking, they start seeing auras around lamps. They start seeing and feeling what animals are doing. It depends what you're connected to. If people are really loving animals, they'll be more focused on that and looking at that area. Some people are looking at, they have different skills that they already has had, but because they are accepting the love which is inside of them, the self-discipline and the self-guidance starts coming in. In other words, we don't need a reading. Sometimes we just need validation.
Yeah.
In other words, like we are already getting, I think this is happening, I think that's happening. And even, the best reading, we say, that's exactly what's happening. Oh, good. And so in other words, we already are there. Now we just need to accept it. Accept the fact that you're amazing. We have so much. I mean, scientists are still discovering what DNA is all about. Going back 20 years, they used to study the DNA with two strands, that helix that we see or that shows in many of the diagrams. Those two helixes is our DNA. That's not true. We have more than two. We have 12. But 10 were shut off because they address different things, and the various solar flares and the various things that we are doing to our bodies, looking at this consciousness that we're part of, this community that you and thousands of other people are creating. This is what it's needed. We can't just have one big community yet. What ends up happening is we have thousands of these small people, and there's some have 30 in it, some have 100, some have 10, but over thousands, it creates a collective consciousness that the earth is now vibrating to, and this is why the Schumann resonance is constantly changing, bringing our energy up and our frequency up, then bringing it back down. It doesn't want to freak us out, and as soon as we get a little overwhelmed, it starts coming down because the earth, Gaia, our earth, knows what we can take, but is always pushing for more. So in other words, what this means is that when we start seeing ourselves as amazing and really believing in it, that's when magic happens, because that is your true nature. When you're starting to see yourself as being very true. I forget. I think it was Marianne Wilkinson that had that one poem that says it isn't the
Yes.
fact that we are afraid of our light, that we are not that
Mm.
great. We are more afraid that we are amazing beyond belief, or something to that effect.
Yes.
That
That's a
they are
beautiful
more
phrase.
powerful than
Mm.
we anticipate we are, and we don't know what to do with that power. So maybe
Yes.
it's more about that, and that's the hesitation. But
Yes.
with light also comes intelligence. When we get that intelligence come in, that's what we're building now. We're building the fact that as we are going through whatever trauma we are going through, this is the work we need, realizing that, hey, I just did that. And I did it without the knowledge, without realizing how powerful I was. I was able to step away rather than thinking I had to let that one trauma go. I'm stopping the entire loop that I'm not enough, that whatever I do, it's always enough. In fact, I'm more than enough. And we can start believing that, then all of a sudden your aura, your energy, everything starts to expand. And guess what? You start attracting other people that are in that same collective consciousness because the frequency is similar. We start attracting us like you and I are attracted because in that way the energy is very similar, and we're still looking for the heavens to say, I am so grateful for everything I have. But universe, I'm always willing to see how it could get a little better. And we're always willing to upgrade our lifestyle, not because we're greedy, but because we are creation based. We are creating and we are showing that creation as we start to expand. And whether it's bringing more people in, as whether it's looking at a practice that is bringing that people to us because they are looking for answers, they will usually find answers not because of what we teach them, but because they see what a connected person of source looks like. And if that person can do it, of course I can do it. We will mimic the same frequency. And
Yes.
it's no secret that if you take two tuning forks and you only hit one, but let's say the two tuning forks are exactly the same frequency, if you hit one, the other will vibrate. And it's the same thing with people. You have one person that has this vibe, and someone else says, I like that vibe. And all of a sudden, they start vibrating the same way because they want to. But as soon as they say, am I doing it right? I don't think I'm that strong. I don't think I'm this or that. And they have all kinds of doubts. You actually put more lampshades over your light. And what it means is it's still the same intensity, but because there's so many lampshades, it looks darker.
Yes.
So we just need
Yes.
to remove one lampshade after another until we come to our full essence. We
Yes.
don't we
And
don't go down.
yeah, I use a metaphor. It feels like, this heavy blanket, and so when you
Yes.
lift that off, it's like, how the world is so beautiful, and you start noticing all the
You
beauty
start noticing.
around you, and just in this place of gratitude and awe and joy, and that's our true essence, I keep saying this: come back to your heart and feel love and peace and joy, because
That's right.
that's our
That's
true
right.
essence. Yes.
Absolutely. But here's the thing on top of that, Linda, when somebody is so surprised that they were amazing, what it really means is they never believed in themselves until they got there. Because if you knew how bright you were and you see your brightness, oh yeah, I saw that. In other words, there's no surprise. But if
Mm,
you're surprised of how amazing you ended up being, is that you
mm,
had different levels of belief as you were going through it. Eventually, there was no belief; there was just a knowing, and that's even
yes.
more powerful than belief.
Yes. You mentioned the 12 strands of DNA, and this definitely is something that I resonate with, because it's one of the workshops that I teach. Um,
Oh.
which is Palua healing. It's an enlightenment modality that shifts consciousness and expands awareness. And back in 2004, this really shifted me, because how I explain it is, yes, we were conditioned that we only have 2 DNA, but we have 12. So imagine a house where only 2 of the rooms were wired up with electricity and the other 10 rooms were not. So through the attunement, and what I teach in this certified course is wiring up all the rooms, so the 12 strands of DNA, and then our job is to turn on the light switches, and that's how you become full of love and light.
Yes. Yes. What it actually is that this entire house, if we go to your example, actually everything is already wired, but it's just shut down. So all we have to do is hit the switch. But hitting that switch, it requires a little bit of emotional intelligence. It requires a little bit of a higher consciousness, because if you start flicking on those lights when you're not ready, it actually will rebound, and you'll only go back to the first 2. The first one is basically survival. That's pretty much the root chakra. That we just want to make sure that we're okay. The second is emotional energy. The third one is true origins, where you came from. And as soon as you start tapping into where you used to, not from this earth, what planet or what star that you are feeling, and sometimes the emotion comes out of where you used to be and what you came in and what your mission is. Then another light switch goes on. But everything's already kind of wired in there, but we have to turn them on, and that's the work. Is we have to be ready to turn on those lights.
Yes.
And so it's but no, it's a great amazing thing. Everything's already here for us. And that's why scientists say that some of the DNA and 97% is rubbish or gibberish, because it's not working. Well, that's because it's not connected. As we start evolving, those light codes in our DNA will automatically turn on. There are DNA forks that I use, and it's to relay the various patterns of energy, basically saying to the body that the moment that this person is a higher consciousness, we can turn on the next set of lights. And so that's that works. But yeah, you're doing great work, Linda. That's exactly where this is all going, and they'll turn them on the moment they get ready to do that. But that's the hesitation,
Yes. Well, that's where the fear, there's only 2 emotions, love or fear. Which one do you choose? And like you said, we have free will. So,
yes,
and it's more about the timing for each individual when they're ready. And so, and some may not be ready at this moment.
If they're very committed to just staying in the level that they are in, and they're always resisting, they won't be ready, because they even though they're in an environment that they don't like, it's still familiar enough that they will stay. And that's the fear. If you feel that the unknown is fearful, then those are the people that will resist the whole time. In feng shui, when we look at various resistance that people have in their homes, we'll find all kinds of evidence that people have very sore feet, especially their heel energetically. When people are resisting, they're putting their heels in the ground energetically, and so they will have problems with their feet, in that area. So the body will indicate various ways that they are resisting in some way, whether it's hands, and it's usually inside of where the wrist is, because our wrist and our feet are kind of connected together. So even if they don't have sore feet, but their hands will be off. That's why many will get carpal tunnel very easily, even though someone else could be on the computer for much longer, and they don't get the same symptoms. But if they're constantly resisting, that the body will indicate that it's the language of the body. It will show you that you're
Yeah.
not in the flow, you know?
Yes. Well, that's the book that I've had for years. The body is the barometer of the soul.
It is. It is.
And again with Louise Hay and Ina Segal, it's like every ailment, every physical ailment, every ache and pain or illness, disease, it's the body's way of giving you messages that something's out of alignment, and
That's
to
right.
look at that. And how I describe it to people is look at it from it's like just an object, not attached. It's like, oh, okay, so you're there, you're just energy. What's the message for me? And what is are you, maybe it has a purpose, maybe it has a message, maybe whatever, but you're more powerful and you can dissolve it, transmute it, transform it into light.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the body is exactly that. It's the barometer. It's just a different language. We were never taught in school how the body communicates. The biggest thing the body does is offer pain because now it has your attention. And whether it's a disease or an ailment, it's one way the body's saying, "Hey, you're not taking care of something. You're just not sort of awake." And so pain is a very good catalyst for us to start looking deeper as to why is it painful? What part of the body is screaming pain, and what is that attached to? And that's really where we start. For instance, if a person has a lot of knee problems, it all has to do with something to do with trust. The left knee has lacking in trust of oneself. The right knee means you don't trust other people. So if you've been scammed and you never got over it, you're going to have right knee problems all the time. And whether it's going to be a sprain or whether it's going to be something that's always going to be there, the knee is saying you need to trust everyone. But then people say, well, if I trust everyone, they'll take advantage of me. And I says, well, look at it this way. When you trust everybody, how much does that cost you? And you say, well, it doesn't cost anything. That's right. So the only time somebody can take something from you is they have to ask you, would it be okay if I borrowed $30,000? Would it be okay if I used your car? Would it be okay? And then you can tap into your intuition and you're getting, no, I'm getting a no. So sorry. In other words, you can still trust, but you still have the final say on whether you're going to give something. And that's what people are sometimes missing, is that if somebody asks me something, right away it's a yes. Well, yeah, then in that way you have no boundaries. And that's what your knee is telling you, to start setting up boundaries so that you can trust other people very well. And it doesn't mean you can't trust them forever. Maybe right now you cannot trust this person, but in 2 years they might have an awakening, things would change, and then 2 years they'd ask the same question, and I'm kind of getting a yes, you can use my car, because they will run it with respect. But 2 years ago, no way, I wouldn't get the car back. In the same way, anyway. But so it's all about intuition, and when we trust ourselves, then all of a sudden the knee pain starts to dissipate because the problem has gone, so there's no need for the body to yell anymore.
Beautiful, beautiful. And this taps into discernment. And like you
Yes.
said, trusting yourself and having those boundaries, because again, things happen for you,
Yes.
and say you're blaming the person, you mentioned rape. Oh, but you actually on another level gave them permission, and you attracted them in because of your energy vibration, and maybe it was fear and they went, oh, easy prey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. So sometimes I'll get clients that has happened. So we have to be very careful how we phrase that, so it doesn't
Yeah.
sound like they're the ones that allowed it. So
Yeah.
there is different ways that just the vocabulary wise that it happened. And now how can we get past this? What have you learned? What have you gotten stronger? This reminds me of one story that I heard in the late night, where a lady that did happen to her. And for years, she was tormented by herself. Every time she thought of it, she went into a panic attack, and there was all kinds of things, and all kinds of counselors and psychiatrists and physiotherapists. They all wanted to say, "Tell me what happened," or "Give me the story." And he has to go through that all again, which is really, But they have different ways now. But it wasn't until one day that she says, "It just occurred to me as I was in my silence," and this is where the genius comes out, when we are just by ourselves and we are just in that stillness. And then all of a sudden something comes out of you, and you start realizing that every time you play that recording of that horrible event, that person does it again and then again, and it does it 1,000 times. So she started realizing that out of the time that incident happened, and it doesn't matter how long it was, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, that wasn't the biggest hurt. The biggest hurt was playing it in her head thousands of times again and again, was the major damage that she gave herself. As soon as she started realizing that I'm hurting myself each time, and then she says, "I'm just going to not do that anymore." Not that I'm going to forget about it, but I'm going to say, "No, you're not doing it to me again." And so that's the boundaries that she had in herself, and she was able to heal herself that way without the counselors, and realizing that it isn't about running from it. It's about, I had to go right deep down and realize what I was doing to myself every time I thought about it. And so it just goes to show how powerful thoughts are, how powerful words are. The words and bringing it in again on your own is the real effort. And so she did so much, and she made she opened up a coaching type of business for people that went through that event again and again, and they couldn't find what they want to do. And that was what her calling had to be, because she discovered how she got through it, and now she's sharing that same insight with other people that would never have thought that, because you can't change the past, but all you can do is look at it in a different way.
Exactly. And that's the silver lining. That's the beautiful gift in things happen for you, because it's like, wow, now I can help others. And in all my years of seeing clients, everything I've overcome, and it's like those clients come with exactly the same thing. And it's like, well, this is how I overcome all this, the trauma, everything. So that's how it all works. It's like we're all helping each other on this playground. So, Tony, I could talk to you for hours and hours. So, do you have one last message to share with the audience today, from anything that's coming through? Because it's a
one thing that's really prevalent, what that would like to be able to give your listeners insight, is that you didn't come on this earth to teach and train the world of how to teach you and not hurt you. You came on this earth to find out how you could become unhurtable. That way it's always a solo mission. You're not trying to tell other people that you hurt me and to change their behavior. You're making it so I don't have to focus on other people. I just focus on myself so that I become unhurtable. So it's not going to be something that is going to give me a hit. And I realize that a person that is in that space, they're not seeing the hurt. You could only imagine how much hurt is inside of them that they don't see they're hurting other people, because it takes a victim to create a victim.
Yes. Oh my God. we could go down that rabbit hole and have a whole nother podcast, and maybe we will do that because I've got so many more questions, but I'm respectful of your time, and thank you so much for being here and sharing all your wisdom and knowledge to everyone who's listening. So grateful, Tony. Thank you so much.
Thank you
And
so much,
yes,
Linda, for the invite. Yep.
my pleasure. And I will put all your details. Do you want to just quickly say what your website is
Those that
for
want to come onto our website, it's lovehigherself.com is our website. On there, there's all kinds of events. So at the very top, you can go to the events column, and I'm a master teacher in many sound frequencies, mostly in frequencies of tuning forks with Soma Energetics. These are the people that I get all my tools from. I'm also their main master teacher to be able to share what I know on frequency, so the others can be able to tune other people on their own. And I also have a podcast that is there, and it's in that website as well, lovehigherself.com. Just go at the very top where it says podcasts, and it gives you the link to several new ones. And one of the newest ones that you've already mentioned was the Year of the Fire Horse. And we had a segment on that just last Friday. And it's all about moving forward this year. Anything that would keep you down, keep you hesitating, that podcast and one that you've just done with, it says much the same thing in terms of just jumping on this horse and burning through and not pulling the reins if the horse is going fast. Be in the rhythm. Anybody that rides a horse, they have to get that rhythm of how that horse is galloping, and you got to go with the rhythm. If you go against it, it'll buck you off. And so it's about feeling what you need to do and stop thinking. Just
yes.
go with what your heart is saying, even it's never let you down.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. Tony, you're a
Thank you very much.
blessing to the world, and thank you so much. Thank you. I look forward to having you on again on another
Okay,
podcast
sure.
interview.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Thank,
Thank you so
okay.
much.
All
Bye
the
for
best.
now.
Say
Thank
hi.
you.
In